All right. One moment. Here we go. Let's try this. All right. Oh, proceed when you're ready. One moment. Proceed.
Are you in the Kosh area?
Not quite. One moment. Mm. All right. Proceed.
In this day and age, there's a group called Q Anon,
All right.
or Q,
All right.
or it's an individual, a group or individual. We're asking you,
It's a collective. It's a collective.
It's a collective.
Yes.
Okay. Are they appointed by Trump?
Mm, are they appointed by Trump? They're. mm, he's certainly aware, and mm, not necessarily his direct appointment, but in the way that you mean, he's certainly okay with it. Does this make sense?
Is he privy enough to know who the collective are?
Um. Oh yes. I mean, generally speaking. Now there are one moment. There are many people or beings making posts on your internet. Some claiming to know who QAnon is. Some claiming to have certain information. One moment. But there is essentially one place that is posting true or more accurate or the real QAnon, as opposed to sometimes you have people sort of being imposters, or does this make sense?
Where is that? The real or
Well,
original Q
one moment.
postings.
There is one source that may be, shall we say, much more accurate, or it was called QChan or QChan 8. One moment. QChan 4, QChan 8. Uh, there are actually quite a few sources who are just posting the general real material without, shall we say, doctoring anything or overly influencing anything with their own opinions. One moment. But we believe it started with, and one moment. One moment. Q Chan, if you should ever look this up, I believe it's a Q-Chan 4, Q-Chan 8, may have, at any rate. This is what we can provide at this time. One moment. Does this help?
Yes. Is um, the Kennedy son, um, John F. Kennedy's son, is he in this collective?
John F. Kennedy Jr., the idea of John F. Kennedy's son, is he in this collective?
Yes.
One moment. Uh, all we can say at this time is it's much more likely than not. One moment. Now, we're not necessarily, the question was not about him being alive or not alive, but understand that he had access to much information before the idea of his death, although we're not trying to look at that. One moment. So yes, in a manner of speaking, he's providing input or information. One moment. Yes, to the question. Does this help? He would seem yes to the question.
Okay. Do you believe his wife is also not dead and involved in this collective?
What is her name?
Carolyn?
Are we having a pre-production issue here?
Yes, we are. I was not anticipating.
Carolyn is her name?
I believe so. Let me see.
Carolyn rhymes with Marilyn. Marilyn Monroe. We wanted to discuss that earlier. One moment.
So it would be John F. Kennedy Jr. is the son, and his wife is Carolyn.
With a C, Carolyn,
With a C.
Carolyn.
Her maiden name was Bassett.
B-A,
B-E.
B-E, Bassett.
S-S-E-T-T-E.
All right. Carolyn Bassett, do you have a date of birth?
She was born in 1960. Is that what I have right at this second?
All right, one moment. Carolyn Bassett, wife, born in the 1960s. One moment. And we're wanting to know if she's the idea of alive at this moment? With that name and that persona?
And part of the collective.
Is she a part of the collective? Oh, well.
Of Q.
One moment. It would seem to be yes to the question.
Is there anybody who's in charge of the collective to manage meetings?
Well, go ahead. Not necessarily. This group or source of information, there's no. Please understand that the strongest groups have no identified leader, or the leadership is fluctuating. Does this make sense?
Uh-huh.
So that no one ever, shall we say, dominates the meetings, if you will.
So there are meetings.
Well, it's mostly telepathic, but in a manner of speaking. Do you mean, do humans actually gather somewhere on Earth?
The collective, the Q collective, where do they gather?
One moment. Mostly on the internet. One moment. Mostly what you call there's actually a system your government uses, which is way beyond your Wi-Fi internet. Does this make sense?
Is it secure?
Oh, it's secure. But it's, just shall we say, years and years in advancement beyond your traditional Wi-Fi. Does this make sense?
Who provided that?
Well, it's been around for quite some time, probably the 1980s, 1970s, 80s. It runs at 100 times the speed of your traditional internet. It can be much, much more secure than any of your software systems you might install. Does this make sense?
It does, but who provided it? Who created it?
Well, your scientists or your researchers, your military, primarily your military in the way that you mean. Does this help?
Yes.
It's actually been, well, we may digress, but if we may, you recall your Nikola Tesla.
Yes.
In the shall we say 20s, even maybe before then, in the early 1900s, he discovered many, many ways to communicate at a much faster rate than your traditional telephone. Does this make sense?
Yes.
And his ideas, shall we say, were never really shared with the public as he wanted, were never really brought to the light, as you say. They were, shall we say, taken by a small portion of your population who wanted to keep this information for themselves. Does this make sense?
Yes.
All right. So that they knew they could anytime have a very advanced, secure, fast, I beg your pardon, system of communication well beyond your traditional telephone. Does this make sense? And
it sure does.
And this was basically around somewhere in the 1920s, maybe, definitely in the 30s, but let's just say definitely by the 1930s, they had things even beyond your cell phones in the 1930s. Does this make sense?
It does.
All right, thank you. Does this help? Or do you have more questions?
I have more questions.
All right, please.
What, did Hillary Clinton, was she aware of this method of communication?
Oh, yes. Yes, to the question.
So why are her emails public now?
Well, many of you are getting crafty and intelligent and smarter than the average bear, as you might say. Does this help, or do you want more specifics?
No, that's another recording.
All right.
Because we want to stay with Q.
All right.
Do you know what through the Akash, what message or big headline we're going to hear from Q this week or anytime soon?
Mm. One moment. You may continue to hear or see messages, one moment, which are very much in line with some of your presidential tweets and what you call your news headlines, as they have been in the past. The true Q information many times has essentially shared information with you ahead of time, either hours, days, sometimes even weeks or months. Does this make sense?
It does.
All right. So you will likely, one moment, very likely continue to see more similar kinds of posts and information about, shall we say, coming attractions. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Are you looking for a specific headline or issue or one moment?
Yes.
All right, around a
Or this
topic or area. Oh, this week. One moment. All right.
A topic maybe the arrest warrants for the cabal.
All right, one moment.
Not all of them have been made public.
No, in fact, compared to the number which exists, almost none, right? Would this be accurate?
Yeah.
Excuse me. I don't mean to be disparaging towards your systems. One moment. It does seem. One moment. One moment. We're now looking at Guantanamo Bay. Did we go in the wrong direction? Excuse me.
No.
Arrest warrants. Okay.
No. Yeah. Will they be made public this week?
One moment. This week? Possible. Maybe not most probable, but possible. You could see a few more leaks of stories, on your alternative news sources. One moment. One moment. Oh, we could say with a fair degree of certainty, say over 70%, 72%, 70%-ish, that you will likely see or hear this coming week, this idea of week. The day is March 10, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. March 10, 2019 to March 17. It is very likely you're going to see and hear a lot of people, and most of it will be true and accurate. There are always people posting things that are not quite accurate, but when we just look at the average timeline on your planet, because there are so many parallel timelines, one moment, it definitely would seem as though you will see this week some, headlines of things, of things. One moment, did we had about the arrests? Is this what
right?
One moment.
The
All right.
arrest warrants.
All right. One moment. Yes, it would seem that it's much more likely than not you will see, if you poke around on your alternative news sources and the most trusted and use your discernment, you can find and will find and see some accurate information about activity in the area that you're asking about. Does this help? One moment.
It does. Will this come from Q?
Will this confirm Q?
No, will this come from Q?
Oh, will this come from Q? Excuse me. Well, one moment. It's possible you may see some information from Q. It looks like it's just as likely or more likely that there are certain alternative media, shall we say, who do have accurate information provided by reliable sources. Does this make sense? Yes. So you may see it from the idea of Q. You may see it or hear it simply from some of your more, just shall we say, reliable sources on your planet. Does this make sense?
Yes.
All right. Does this help in some way?
It did.
All right.
Is there anything that you would like, any more that you would like to share? If not, we could close.